Hello and welcome to Breezy. In today's video, we're going to be covering some of the basics of the platform, such as how to create positions, how to design your career page, as well as adding users into the account. In addition, we'll also cover some of the more advanced features and functionality that are available in the platform. So let's get started. The view that you're seeing on my screen is the dashboard view of the platform, and this is the view that all users land on once they log into Breezy. Depending on who's logging in, they're going to see information that's pertinent to them. So in my example, I am working on all of these positions that you see in the My Positions tab. Any new candidates that have applied for those positions will show up in the New Candidates tab. If I have any upcoming meetings or if there are any tasks that are due, as well as any relevant conversations with candidates from these positions will all show up in the dashboard view. From here, one of the first things that you'll probably want to do as an admin is to click the settings icon and go to company settings. Here, you'll be able to go into the manage members section to invite members into the account. You can add them in either as administrators or as members simply by typing in their email address. You've also got the option of enabling an employee auto join feature, which will allow users to sign up using a URL that gets generated from within Breezy. Breezy also supports single sign-on directly from here as well. The next thing that you're going to want to do is to design the career page. To do that, go into your settings section, recruiting preferences, and you'll see a tool for career portal design. This is a very simple way to build up and publish a career page directly through Breezy. It has loads of design and customization options, including the ability to insert custom CSS and JavaScript. Once you've gone through this process, the end product would look something like this Acme page that I just pulled up, where you have the page branded however you like. You can have some information about your organization. You can upload any media that you would like to have on the page. And as you publish jobs through Breezy, they'll get listed there for candidates to be able to apply. This career page also allows you to set up an employee portal. This is a section which allows your existing staff to either apply for any internal positions you might have, or they can submit referrals into any of the positions that you have. And those are all tracked within Breezy. Setting up the career portal and the employee portal are both done from the recruiting preferences section. We covered where you find the career portal settings before. Right below that, you'll see the employee portal section as well. Now that you've got your career page designed and users added into the account, the next step would be to create positions. To do that, you can hit the position/pools link from the left-hand side, and you'll see a list view of all your positions. Anything with a green dot next to it signifies that it's an active position or a pool. If you have anything with a blue dot, that means it's in a draft state, and if you've closed out a position, you'll see that with a gray dot next to it. Clicking the dot allows you to change the status of a position or a pool directly from within this list view as well. To create a position, you click the Add Position button in the top right corner, and it takes you through a series of sections that you need to fill out. Step one of this process involves entering in the basics of the job, like the title, the location, the job description, etc. The next step after that is to define the application form itself. There are a series of standard fields that you can enable or disable based on your preferences that you see on my screen. You've also got the ability to augment these by inserting custom questions via questionnaires. Questionnaires are just a series of questions that you can create with different response types that range from things like text or paragraph-based responses to multiple choice, as well as even video responses if you wanted to. If you're using multiple choice or drop-down lists, you've also got the ability to move candidates based on an answer they provide. So many companies use this as a way to screen applicants directly from the initial application process. An example would be if you created a multiple choice question which says, "Are you over the age of 18?" And if a candidate answers no, you could automatically move them into a disqualified stage of your recruiting process. Video interviews are also very popular these days for certain types of roles. You have the ability with these to ask text-based questions that candidates can record responses to. They can either record a response for up to a minute, 2 minutes, or 5 minutes. And these recordings will show up on the candidate's profile once they've completed the application process. When you've created a questionnaire, they become part of a list. So if you're publishing a new position and you wanted to reuse those questions, you can just pick from the list. Another thing to note is that questionnaires can also be emailed to candidates after they've applied. So many companies these days tend to have a fairly short initial application, but as soon as someone applies, they can either manually or automatically trigger a questionnaire to them to collect additional information or screen them that way. Pipelines is the next step, and this is where you define what the recruiting workflow is going to look like for this particular position. In Breezy, you can create a single pipeline that you're going to use across all of your positions, or you can build and design multiple pipelines and then associate the one that makes the most sense for the position. The next step after that is to decide whether you're going to use a scorecard with your particular position. Similar to pipelines, you've got the ability to create and save numerous scorecards in the platform. You can then pick the one that makes the most sense for the position. Scorecards are something that we highly recommend, especially if you want to have a standardized feedback process for your team. Once you've associated a scorecard with the position, everyone from the hiring team will be able to rank or rate the candidates against the consistent set of criteria that you've defined in the scorecard. Promote is where you decide where the jobs are going to go out to. We integrate with quite a few free job boards. If you enable it, it'll go out to all of those. We also integrate with numerous premium job boards. So if you wanted to get added visibility or get increased candidate volume for certain hard to fill roles, you will be able to promote your jobs to any of the ones that you see. The last step is to define the hiring team for a position. And this is where you can add in users to the position so they can view the candidates. At a position level, there are two permission levels for hiring team members. You can either be a hiring manager or you can be listed as a member. The summary view below each permission level will give you a quick overview of what those types of users will be able to do in the account. There's a more detailed description of the permissions that each of these groups has in our user guide as well. If you ever use external recruiters to fill any of your positions, you've also got the ability to add them into a position. This does not give these recruiters any access to your data, nor do they log into the platform. They'll have access to either a web portal or a position-specific email address that they can submit candidates to, and the system can track who it was submitted by, and you can report off of that data. Those are really all the steps for getting a position published. Once the position is live, you will see that on your career page, and within 24 hours typically, it also gets posted out to the job boards that you've selected. From here, the candidate experience is very straightforward. If I was an applicant, I could come in, I could hit apply on a position. It would load up the job description, whatever you'd added in. I hit apply once more, and it takes me into the application form itself with whatever questions you might have asked. And once I've completed this, I hit submit, and my job is pretty much done as an applicant. Once you've published a position and you've got some candidates who've applied, the next step would be to click into the position to review those candidates. If I click into this deputy director position, I'm going to see a view of my candidate pipeline with the applicants in the various stages of the recruiting workflow. If I click into a candidate, I'm going to see a view like the one that I just pulled up. The left-hand side of a candidate's record will have all their application details. Their contact details get parsed automatically. Any social media profiles that we find will be populated in the system as well. A parsed version of their resume is available for you to review. Anything parsed from the resume, as well as anything you might have tagged a candidate's record with, is going to be searchable inside the platform. A full copy of the candidate's resume is also available. You can print it out, download it, or full screen it if you wanted to. Any other files that a candidate submitted, either as part of the application process or if they submitted files via questionnaires after they had applied, you would see the results of all of those in their record as well. If they'd responded to questionnaires, you would also be able to see their responses directly in the questionnaires tab, including things like video responses, like in my example. If candidates had done reference checks, or if you'd run background checks on them or triggered assessments, you'd be able to see the results of all of those over here as well. The right-hand side has an area for team discussion. This is where you and the rest of the hiring team can have an internal conversation about a candidate. It supports @mentions, so I can directly message another member of the hiring team with a comment, and whoever I message will get an email notification with a link to follow back to the candidate's record in order to reply back to your comment or to take action. If you have the mobile apps installed, there are apps for both iOS and Android, you'll also be able to get notifications on your phone, and you can review candidates, participate in team discussions, provide feedback, along with a host of other features and functions directly from the apps as well. If you're on Office 365 or on Gmail, you've got the ability to enable your email integration. And that way, whenever you're sending emails to candidates, they'll be synced up with your mail software. To enable the integration, you can click the settings icon, go to user settings, and you'll see the option to enable Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar, Gmail, or Office 365 Mail. You'll also see an option to enable the Slack integration here as well. Once the integration is enabled, if you send an email to a candidate, whether you're typing out an email or you are using a template that you might have saved, and I'll show you how to set up templates in just a bit as well. When you send it, it would show up in your sent items in Outlook or Gmail. If a candidate replies, the reply would also go directly to your Gmail or Outlook as well. You can essentially at that point carry on a conversation with the candidates directly from your mail platform, but a full history of those emails will sync up inside Breezy. Similar to emails, you can also text candidates in countries that we support texting in. You could simply type out a text, hit send, or choose to delay the text if you wanted to, just like in emails, or you could even use email or text templates as well. If a candidate replies, you'll get an email notification. You can also respond back to them directly from those emails as well. In terms of scheduling, if you click the Schedule Interview button, you'll see a window that pops up, which allows you to give the candidate a specific date and time for an interview. So for this particular candidate, I could set a duration for the interview. I can pick the members of the hiring team who are going to be participating in it, and I could trigger this interview if I wanted to. If you've got your calendar integration enabled, clicking the Availability button will show you the interviewing team's free busy schedule for that day as well. If you have panel interviews, you can also use the Add Interview function to keep adding additional times with different interviewers into this interface as well. And any interview can be made into a video interview. These interviews can also be recorded. This is completely browser-based. There's no need for the candidates or for the hiring team to download any special software to use this. And if an interview was recorded, the recording would show up in the attachments section for you to download or replay directly from within the candidate record. This is one way to schedule interviews where you're specifically giving candidates a time or a set of times where various people from the hiring team will be meeting up with them. Another way to set up interviews is to allow candidates to schedule themselves for interviews, and that's what we call self-scheduling. If you go into your settings and recruiting preferences, you'll see an option to create scheduling links. Scheduling links operate very similar to tools like Calendly, where you can define the days in the week that you're available or the hiring team is available for interviews. You can define the increments of time that candidates can book interviews with you or the team for, as well as the date range as to when they can book the times. Once you've set up a scheduling link on a candidate's record, you could simply insert that into an email and send it off if you wanted to. So for example, if I go into Keisha's record, I could insert a scheduling link and email it off to her. I could do the same thing via text messages as well if I wanted to. When I send this link to a candidate, they can click it and it would give them an interface where they can see the days that you said you're available. They can click into a date to see the times that you said you're available. and they can just book themselves for an interview. This syncs with your Google or your Outlook calendar as well. So if you have other candidates who've booked certain time slots, or if you've had internal meetings take up slots that you originally defined as you being available for, it would not display those to the candidates. You can also automate these by setting up stage actions that we're going to cover in just a bit as well. I'd mentioned scorecards, and if you've set up scorecards on the position, every candidate's record will have a scorecard button, and everyone from the hiring team will be able to click that to rank or rate the candidates. Scorecards always have a section for general comments or free-form thoughts about a candidate, as well as an area for overall rating. And then any subcategories that you've created or defined, the candidates will be able to rank or rate, or the hiring team will be able to rank or rate the candidates on. Once your team has rated these candidates, that information gets aggregated in the scorecards tab. So you can see who from the team has provided the ratings, what the ratings were, any feedback that was logged by these hiring team members, all in one place. There's also an option to log notes. You can log completely private notes, which are not visible to anyone else, or you could log a public note. If you logged a public note, that information would also be visible to other members of the hiring team under the Team Notes section on the Scorecards tab. A few other quick ones on this candidate view. On the top right, you've got the ability to move candidates between stages by choosing the stage you want to move them to directly from here. The other option for you is to just drag and drop candidates into the various stages of the recruiting pipeline, like I'm doing in my example. You can also copy candidates or move candidates between the various positions if you think there may be a better fit for a different role, or maybe if you want to move them into a talent pool. So move, as the name implies, will completely move this candidate from this particular position, and it will carry over much of this information that you see here into whichever position or pool that you're moving them into. A copy will create a copy of this candidate in the other position or pool. This is also where you can add tasks on a candidate's record, where you can either assign a task to yourself or to someone else, and they'll get email notifications and reminders if you do that. You could print out a candidate profile, or you could generate a shareable link to this candidate's initial application form, like I did in this example. Besides the pipeline view that we've been on so far, you can also click the candidate button up top to switch to a list view of all your candidates. And here you can do several things. The first thing you can do is to take bulk actions. So as an example, I could select a bunch of candidates in here, and I could mass email them. I could move them in bulk from one stage of my interviewing pipeline to another. I could send them questionnaires in bulk, or delete them, or even export their data out into a CSV file. On the left-hand side, you'll also see an option for filtering these candidates. There are numerous filtering options, and you could select any of them to restrict or view just the candidates in a particular stage, for example, or by a certain tag, etc. The filter by text option also allows you to do simple keyword searches or Boolean searches. So I could type in a keyword, and the system would search across any parsed information from the candidate's resumes or anything you've tagged them with, and it would give you results based off of that. Or I could do a Boolean search, and it'll search across the same fields and give you results based off of that. I can do this search specifically inside a single position, like the one I'm doing right now. Or if I click the candidate button from the left-hand side, I'll have the ability to search across all positions that I have access to and all the candidates that exist in those positions or pools. The next topic that we're going to cover is all the customization options that you have available in Breezy. To access those, just click the settings icon, go to recruiting preferences, and you'll see a list of items. We'll start with pipeline stages. Clicking into pipeline stages will show you a list of all the pipelines that you have available. You can create new pipelines, or you can edit existing ones. Clicking the show button next to each pipeline will also show you a list of all the positions that are using that pipeline. If I click edit, I'll see a list of all the stages that are associated with that pipeline. I can add more stages, delete stages, or I could reorder them if I wanted to. I could also click into a stage and rename it to be something different. Inside each stage, you've also got the ability to set up stage actions. Stage actions are automations that can trigger whenever candidates enter a particular stage. So as a simple example, you could have a stage action which triggers an email or a text message whenever candidates enter the applied stage. And you could have those triggered either immediately or on a delay. Some of the other options include the ability to send off questionnaires, trigger nurture campaigns, which are essentially a series of emails that you can create and send out, or trigger an assessment to candidates, request feedback, or ask the hiring team to fill out scorecards, or you could push records off into an HRIS system that we integrate with, or move candidates based on the results from background checks that you're running from inside Greasy. These stage actions can help save a lot of time on your end. So as an example, if you have candidates who are applying and you'd like to notify them that you've received their application, you could trigger an email that goes out every time someone enters the applied stage, letting them know that you've received their application. Similarly, if you maybe move someone into a disqualified stage and you wanted to send an automated rejection email, you could set that up directly from within the stage action section of a pipeline. Once these stage actions are set up, when you're inside the pipeline view, as you move candidates between the stages by dragging them, any automations that are set up for the stage that you're moving the candidate into would just trigger. You've also got the ability to create email and text message templates directly from your settings section here. Creating emails and text messages is very simple. Just hit the email template section. You'll have the ability to create or type out the body of the email. You've got the ability to insert template variables to personalize these. You can also insert scheduling links into those emails as well. We talked about scheduling links earlier. This is the section where you can access those and create new ones as well. And nurture campaigns that we just touched upon. You can create a sequence of emails to go out to candidates as they enter a certain stage with a predefined cadence. This is typically used when you are creating talent pools or you're sourcing candidates, but it can also be used inside a position where if you have, let's say, chosen not to hire a candidate, but you think they could be a useful person to stay in touch with for future roles, you could potentially, instead of just disqualifying them, move them into a nurture campaign stage and have a sequence of emails go out to them to keep them engaged with your organization. You also have the ability to customize the scorecards from the recruiting preferences section. Besides posting jobs and relying on candidates to apply either via your career page or through the job boards, you can also source candidates into Breezy. There are several ways to do this, and I'll cover those one by one. Firstly, inside any position that you're associated with, you'll see a blue Add Candidate button on the right-hand side. Clicking that will allow you to simply type in someone's name and email address to create a candidate record. If you've got a CV or a bunch of CVs, you can upload those and it'll parse and create records off of that, or you could bulk import from a CSV file as well. We also have a Chrome extension that you can install, and that will allow you to source candidates from sites like LinkedIn, Indeed, AngelList, amongst several others. The way this works is if you're on, say, LinkedIn, and you were on a person's profile that you thought could be a good fit for a particular role, you can click the extension, hit import, choose the position that you'd like to import them into, and just hit finish import. When you do that, the candidate would show up inside the position, and the Chrome extension would pull whatever information it can from their LinkedIn profile in this particular case. You can do the same thing inside a talent pool as well. Creating talent pools is very similar to how to create positions. So if I go into a list of all my positions or pools, I'll see a blue Add Pool button. Clicking that will take me through a series of steps. The first step would be to just give the pool a title. The next step would be to define the pipeline for a particular pool. You can choose to associate a scorecard. Same scorecards that are available for the positions are also available for pools. And lastly, just define the hiring team for the pool, just like you would do in positions. Once the pool is active, you can click into it, and you're going to see the candidates in exactly the same interface that you would see them inside a position. All the functionality that you saw for candidates in a position also exists within a pool, including things like the Add Candidate button, the ability to email them, text them, schedule interviews with them, or fill out scorecards for them. One of the other options you have is to source passive candidates directly from your site using the Hello Messenger tool. To use that, you would first need to go into the integration section, scroll all the way down to the sourcing tab, and you're going to see the option to enable Hello Messenger. When you enable it, it'll ask you for several design questions or design elements that you're going to need to define. Firstly, it'll ask you which pool you'd like the candidates to get sourced into. So you must have a talent pool created before you can enable this. You can configure the appearance of the messenger platform. You can choose what automated message it's going to pop up with. And if you did decide to embed this onto your own site, there is a snippet of HTML that you can use for this as well. Once you've enabled this on your career page, you're going to see the Hello Messenger tool pop up whenever a candidate is browsing this site but hasn't necessarily applied for a position. It gives them the message that you've defined, and if the candidate engages, it will prompt them to provide their basic contact details and upload a resume as well. If they do that, inside Breezy, in whichever pool you've associated this record with, you'll be able to see them. So if I go into my list of positions and pools, I could choose the Hello Messenger pool that I've defined, and I would see candidates pop in there. I can interact with them in exactly the same way as I would with candidates inside a position. Another option that you have is to use the talent search functionality that's available inside Breezy. Talent search gives you access to a very large database of people's profiles that you can source through candidates from. So in this particular example, let's say I do a search for software developers. I'm going to restrict the location to Miami, and I'll do a search. It will give me a list of people that it found that matches that criteria. I can scroll through that list. I can also load more of these if I wanted to. And if I click into any particular profile, I'll be able to see a quick summary of whatever the system has been able to find for them, along with any social media links. If I review this candidate and I think this is a good fit for a role, or maybe I'd like to source them into a talent pool, I can hit the Add Position / Pool button, choose the pool that I'd like to add them into, and then just hit Add Candidate. When I do that, their record will show up directly inside the position or the pool that I've added them into. Here he is as an example. If this person has his contact details, you could just communicate with them directly from here if you wanted to, or if you set up a nurture campaign as an example, whenever you add candidates into this particular stage by sourcing them, you could have a sequence of emails that starts to go out to them to try to engage them. This is a more proactive approach to finding candidates as opposed to relying mostly on job boards. It's an add-on feature that you can add into any plan that you have at Breezy. You can subscribe either on a monthly basis, or you could pay upfront for the year and get a discounted price for that. Every position also has reports built in. If you click the Reports tab on the top right corner, you're going to be able to set the date range that you want to run the reports for, and you'll be able to get an overview of the position in terms of what's happened with it for that date range. You can get a breakdown of which job boards candidates are coming from, as well as how your team has scored those candidates from those various job boards. If you had sourced or referrals, you'd be able to get breakdowns for each of those. And you can also look at things like pipeline metrics to see how many candidates are moving forward through the various stages of your recruiting funnel, as well as how long on average does it take for candidates to move through these stages. These reports are there for each position, but if you click reports from the left-hand side, You'll also be able to run those across all of your positions as well. It also includes data around things like time to fill, average time to hire, and a summary of all your open positions and how long they've been open and how many candidates you have in each of them. There are detailed explanations for each of these reports in our user guide as well. A few other quick things that I wanted to cover as part of this as well. Besides sending regular emails, you've also got the ability to send electronic signature documents directly through Breezy. So if you'd like to do a basic onboarding process, it's possible to do that in the platform itself. Things like offer letters, non-competes, contracts, and so on and so forth can all be uploaded into Breezy as e-signature templates, and you could trigger those to a candidate in exactly the same way as you would do with a regular email. So if I go on a candidate's record, I could choose e-signature templates, and I could fire off an email with the attachment directly from here. We use HelloSign as the underlying technology provider for the e-signature templates, and it's legally binding all across the US. From an integrations perspective, if you click on Recruiting Preferences and you go to the Integrations tab, you're going to see a list of all the integrations that are possible. We've already talked about the Slack integration, which is great if you're using this, because lots of notifications that Breezy generates can be routed directly into Slack. You can actually also respond to candidate messages. You can have conversations with teams or complete tasks directly from within Slack as well. We integrate with Checker, Good Hire, and Assurant for background checks. If you've got accounts with any of them, you can enable them, and you'll be able to request background checks and get the results directly inside Breezy. We also integrate with quite a few HRIS platforms like Zenefits, Bamboo HR, and Mainly. If you have these integrations enabled, you could push a candidate's record directly into one of these platforms manually, or you could set up a stage action which pushes them into those systems automatically when they enter a certain stage. We also integrate with assessment vendors like HackerRank, Criteria Corp, Indeed, and Tradeify. So similar to background checks or the HRIS integrations, you could trigger an assessment to a candidate and get the results back directly inside Breezy as well. We also support Zapier, so if you wanted to set up basic integrations, that's possible to do. We can push your jobs out to Facebook Jobs, so you can enable that. There are various job boards that we have integrations with that you can connect if you wanted to, like Sing, CV Library, Indeed, and Seek. I mentioned single sign-on early on. Those are the options that you see. You've talked about Hello Messenger and the Chrome extension. And lastly, we've got Open API. So if you guys ever needed to do any sort of custom integration, that's also possible to do through the platform. In terms of where to get help if you have questions about Breezy, there's a help and documentation section that covers all the functionality that's available in the platform in extensive detail that you can always access. We also have live chat available that you can use to message us at any time. And if you are on a plan that has access to an account manager, you'll also be able to reach out to them directly with any questions and get assistance that way. I hope you found this helpful. Thanks, and have a good one.